for all things nerd. Recorded live from a studio high in the San Diego hills. All the top news in gaming, movies, and more. And now, your host.
Oh, what is up, everyone? Happy Wednesday. It's another hot one down here as Comic-Con kicks off with preview night tonight. I am obviously not there. I'm recording. I do have friends going, so I will get the scoop. Obviously, we'll get it all in the news as well. So, that's what's happening. You know, obviously, the Odyssey came out. We're going to talk about its box office numbers. No, I didn't go see it. No, you guys know why at this point. Realistically, come on. We are going to talk about the Doomsday trailer that dropped. There was a Clayface trailer that dropped. We got two big superhero trailers dropping this week. We are going to talk about Disney layoffs and why was Pixar hit hard. The PlayStation disc fallout continues. That's not going to quiet down for a while. And Nintendo did something bold this week. I'm going to tell you why I don't think they're in the wrong. Yes, they're not being the good guy, and no, they always play the villain, but personally, I don't think they're wrong in this situation, and I'm going to explain myself. So those are the biggest stories. Obviously, there's some other things floating around out in the ether. We're going to get to all that, but first, why don't you head over to nixnerdnews.com. That is the one-stop shop for all things Nick's Nerd News. You can listen to the show right in your browser, or you can take us on the go, because I got links, all the links, to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. Right? Also, check out the social media tab. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on Threads. We got a Facebook. And guess what? YouTube's also a social media site. What? Anyway, let's not waste any more time and get straight to the news, shall we? All right, what's going on in the gaming world, huh? What is going on in the gaming world? Guess what? Aston Martin made a new vehicle. A new bespoke SUV, but it's not real. It is only going to be in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4. Because that's what's happening now. We're getting bespoke vehicles for video games. I'm sorry, what? That's ridiculous. And it's going to be part of the new DMZ mode. It's not even going to be in the main... Anyway. Roblox is getting into the AI game, and they've announced a new feature which will allow you to use simple AI prompts to create mobile games. It's called Build, and it will generate a starting point for you to iterate on, play test, share with friends, publish on Roblox, and it's going to be available for free to every user, to creators at least, and then there will be paid options for power users. I don't know. It just seems like Roblox, but for dummies. Right? I don't know. I've never played Roblox. I know it's more for children more than anything. I just, do we really want to be teaching kids yeah. Scalpers. They're a problem everywhere, aren't they? Now they've really invaded Pokemon Go, of all places. So Pokemon Go, celebrating its 10th anniversary right now. And there was an exclusive Mewtwo gifted to players who were invited to participate in a Times Square raid battle, a specific event. And some of these people were then caught selling that Mewtwo online to other players for thousands of dollars. The problem with all this is it's explicitly forbidden in the terms and services and terms and conditions, terms of service, whatever you want to call it, within Scopely Explore, the company that took over from Niantic for Pokemon Go. This event was extremely limited, ultra exclusive. People were handpicked by Scopely to attend the event. And then just hours later, we're selling it on eBay. And the Mewtwo was exclusive with a special background. It had perfect stats. People were already upset about the frustrations where only 2,000 people were invited. But the fact that, it was a perfect hundo, as it's called, and then people were selling it because influencers and social media people and media and all this were invited, it feels scummy, right? Luckily, though, the company did come out and announce that they would be saying, quote, trainers found doing so are subject to an immediate ban, account removal, unquote. Thank you, Scopely Explore, for doing this, because Pokemon's already just a broken thing in general, and it's good to see them do this. The GameStop CEO is not worried about PlayStation killing physical discs. And we're going to get to why he should in a minute. But Ryan Cohen, CEO of GameStop, said that the sale of physical games are, quote-unquote, totally irrelevant to his business. I'm sorry, that's GameStop's whole business model, sir. Yeah, I know you guys sell Pokemon cards, and now you do card grading and everything, but like 99% of people go into GameStop for a new or used game. Am I wrong in this assumption? He said this on Bloomberg TV after it was asked about how Sony's change would affect GameStop and things like that. But he said that their income now hinges on collectible sales and everything else, which I find that a little hard to believe. I mean, GameStop has been shifting to more collectibles and merch. I haven't been in a GameStop in quite a while, actually. In general, I don't buy as many games as I used to, just for other reasons. He did say then, quote, it doesn't matter at all. Software, it mattered in the past. Software today makes up less than 12% of the business, and collectibles makes up over half the business. So it's totally, totally irrelevant. GameStop is a business that was on the brink of bankruptcy, and everybody was betting against it, for good reason. And now the company's making more money than it's ever made in its history, unquote. I wonder how much of that has to do with the, them doing Pokemon cards and card grading and charging an exorbitant amount for that. He was asked about Grand Theft Auto and things like that, saying, quote, I want you to look your viewers in the eyes and tell them, are you going to bet on an entrenched management team running the business or me? Someone that went head-to-head against Amazon selling 30-pound bags of dog food, turned around a very tough situation at GameStop, and now the company's making lots of money, unquote. Again, stonks are why GameStop has money. Let's be honest. Let's not forget that GameStop has closed several hundred stores over the last year and a half, so that's part of it. Even though he keeps trying to buy eBay, which I don't understand what that logic is, nor do they have the money for it, and eBay keeps telling him to take a hike. Now he wants to buy 10% of eBay, and GameStop does own about 9.8% of the company, which they've been continuously buying shares since May, when they had about 5%. So Cohen wants to make it, quote, more profitable and much larger, unquote. Yeah, okay, eBay's already huge, and now they're going to launch a thing to compete with whatnot. What are you talking about, dude? I'm not even entertaining that anymore. But there's a reason Cohen should care about physical games, because the secondhand game market is a $7.2 billion industry. That's not something you should turn your back on when your store was built around physical media and secondhand games. CNBC recently reported via Data Intello has valued the secondhand game market globally at $7.2 billion in last year alone. It could grow to $13.8 billion by 2034. That's huge. That is a huge thing, and it's going to evaporate when discs go away. Consoles are 42.3% of that revenue share of the secondhand market. North America makes up the largest, of course, and GameStop and CEX lead that as well. Those are the leaders. Again, secondhand market is pushed higher because of affordability. Everyone wants used and cheaper things. And then digital to physical gaming transition is pushing it as well. People are going to start gobbling up used games. This is a huge deal. Kazunori Ito, who is the director of equity research at Morningstar, told CNBC, the secondhand market will, quote, keep shrinking and eventually disappear. Brick and mortar retail is doomed, quote unquote, when everything goes digital, what Sony's trying to do. Sony says it's in response to consumer trends. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. I still don't think this is a smart decision. I think people don't realize what's going on. My bigger concern, though, is that this is all being pushed by analysts who just want them to make more and more and more money. And it's out of greed to a point. But we'll get to that. We'll get to more of that in a second. The new executives at Saber Interactive, who it is Steve Allison, who used to be the Epic Game Store head. He's now the chief business officer at Saber Interactive, but he's commented on some games that are in the works at Saber and is really trying to assure them and fans and gamers alike that things are okay. They did say that they're not going to monetize Space Marine 2 or Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2. Probably not in Space Marine 3, which they are planning to make. But he did say some other things in a post on Reddit that was confirmed as real. He said, quote, "My job isn't to squeeze money from Saber's products through tactics like that. We are preparing to do more self-publishing, and I'm here to organize the group in preparation of the lineup forming for 2028, like when I came to Telltale in 2010, also no MTX company. That includes Space Marine, Wick, hopefully KOTOR Remake, and a few unannounced titles. As a company, Saber has never pushed MTX microtransactions. It's not how we do our products. We sell the main game with a free DLC plan for the community and may do paid DLC, but can't repeat the voice pack DLC issue on Space Marine 2. The team learned a lot on that and before I started here. I didn't work on Fortnite or Rocket League, but I did fund and oversee the launch of Alan Wake Remaster and Alan Wake 2 through the traditional third-party publishing team. What was part of my group, also not microtransaction. There's not a lot more for me to say than to assure you that that's not Saber's approach or how I'm personally oriented leading publishing, etc. Space Marine 3 is going to be all the things you love about 2 plus more that leans into the things you call out that you love about it. And here's the line I want to zero in on. I love about it, unquote. They are saying that a John Wick game, some other kind of game, and that their Knights of the Old Republic remake is going to come out in or around 2028. Which is crazy, because 2028 is also when we might get Casey Hudson's new KOTOR game that was teased at the Game Awards. So IGN did ask him about it. Well, at least they asked Saber about it, and Saber's like, oh, hold on, he didn't really say release dates or anything, so everybody calm down. But this is the first thing we've heard about the KOTOR remake in quite some time. I really, really hope we don't have to wait too much longer for that. It was announced 5 years ago at this point. And yeah, I know Aspyr started on it and Saber took back over, but I really, really hope we don't have to wait too long. The God of War television show is getting recast, and it's Kratos specifically. Ryan Hurst suffered a on-set injury. Specifically, he tore his bicep. So Amazon has decided to entirely recast Kratos completely. We don't know who yet. Filming will get pushed back, potentially to next year, pushing the show further on. But it looks like they're just going to recast him instead. They were going to try and wait, but they decided no, it's just best to recast. Still no release date. Let's see. Grand Theft Auto 6 is now projected to make $5 billion in its first week based on pre-order sales alone. Grand Theft Auto 6 generated $180 million in digital pre-orders across the U.S. and biggest European markets, and then made another $60 million via pre-orders beyond that. So, this was figured out by Newzoo Analytics. They used the GTA 5 player distribution, which is 69% of GTA 5's lifetime console players within those markets. Then they used that number to estimate global first-week pre-order spending, which was around $260 million. And based on pre-order curves, they're tracking $3.25 to $5.2 billion in cumulative sales by the end of its launch week. That is insane. That is an insane number. They will make their money back fivefold. It doesn't sound as cool as tenfold, but the estimates put the production of Grand Theft Auto 6 at $1 billion, give or take, which is also an insane amount of money. Ronan Patrick, the management consultant at Newzoo, said, quote, "The first week of pre-orders generated an estimated $260 million in global digital spending, the largest opening Newzoo has observed. For a title launching in November 2026, the scale of demand this far ahead of release is rare, even among the industry's biggest franchises. Historically, pre-order launches of this scale have been associated with the biggest commercial releases. Contrary to social media reports, GTA 6 has not done $1 billion in pre-orders 21 weeks out. This is absurd, given how pre-order curves look. Nothing has ever and nothing ever will in the near future. What the data actually shows is $180 million in digital pre-order spent across the U.S. and the 5 largest European markets in the final week of June, translating to a global opening week of roughly $260 million, with most of the ramp still ahead. Run that figure through the plausible band of pre-order curves, and GTA 6 is on track to book between $3.25 billion and $5.2 billion in Week 1 launch revenue. Even at the most conservative reading, namely that GTA 6 front-loads harder than any major title in our data set, it lands at a tremendous number by any historical standards," unquote. That's insane. And it's not too crazy because Grand Theft Auto 5 made $1 billion in 3 days in its first week back in 2013. So I won't be surprised at that. Moving over to Xbox Game Studios, Bethesda has outlined its roadmap. And what's crazy is this would have been one of the top stories, but it isn't because of the other shenanigans going on. So Bethesda has laid out its roadmap after the Xbox layoffs and everything like that. Todd Howard, of course, came out and talked about different projects in development. The Elder Scrolls 6 was announced in 2018, mind you, and we're still waiting 2 years out. However, now we have confirmation that Fallout 5 will be the next game after the Elder Scrolls 6. So Fallout 5 you can expect sometime by 2040 at the rate they're working at. They will be switching to Creation Engine 3, so that's a new engine for Bethesda. And Fallout 5 is in pre-production. We also learned that Obsidian Entertainment will be developing a new Fallout game as well. So we will get a new Fallout game before Fallout 5. It will just be a side project. Will it be New Vegas 2 or something else? Obviously, we don't know yet. Bethesda also said that other projects in the Fallout universe are in the works, including a 30th anniversary Fallout Day live in Washington, D.C., and that remasters of Fallout 3 and New Vegas are in the works. They also confirmed work on Starfield, but no news about a sequel or anything, but they did say, quote, with over 17 million players logging almost 1 billion hours to date, Starfield remains an important part of our future. As we enter Year 3, we'll continue expanding the settled systems with new stories, targeted gameplay improvements, and additional updates, while preparing for the launch of new Starborn content next year. More than 40% of players already customize their experience through creations, and will continue investing in creators and giving players new ways to make Starfield their own, unquote. That was from Todd Howard, head of Bethesda, of course. They also announced some other things, collaborations, Elder Scrolls, and beyond. They did confirm that there is no rivalry with Obsidian. Todd Howard dismisses this online rumor that they hate each other because of how well Fallout New Vegas did. Todd Howard has, of course, dismissed these rumors for years at this time. But yeah, I just think it's funny that people continue to say this. But I'm happy that Starfield is going to get love still into the future. A lot of people thought that it had kind of like been thrown out to the wayside, tossed out with the bathwater. But it's interesting. Todd Howard even responded to a Reddit comment, which he rarely does, saying on a Reddit post on the R Games subreddit of all places. He said, quote, "Hey Reddit, I'm a professional lurker and read your comments all the time. Many here do, and we deeply appreciate all the passion for our work. I know I don't really post, and we're usually very quiet. Today's info was an attempt at changing that and letting everyone know what we've been working on the past several years and a look at what's coming. So now we're constantly listening and keep telling us how to be even better. You'd be surprised how many great ideas I get from Reddit. So upvote your favorite and we'll do it. Maybe." Unquote. That's an insane thing to say as the head of Bethesda. Also, before we move on, the memes about this Bethesda roadmap have been hilarious. And they're all different variations of Microsoft essentially telling Bethesda, lock the fuck in. Or them, like Asha holding a gun to Todd. Like, get it done. And they've been hilarious. Because I don't know how true it is. Obviously, we all know Bethesda takes their fucking sweet-ass time to still release games that are full of bugs. Everyone knows the memes about that as well. Right? Memes are like stereotypes. They're based in reality. How based in reality some of these things about Microsoft telling Bethesda to lock in, I don't know. But I'm sure everyone's getting a kick out of them because they're hilarious. Bungie lost their game director for Marathon. Joseph Ziegler is leaving Bungie, has left Bungie, and Bungie is, saying, hey, we can't thank him enough, but, we're going to try to be open and honest with everybody. Not a good look for Bungie right now. Things are not getting better. In the least surprising news ever, the Call of Duty movie will be a Modern Warfare movie. And within the Modern Warfare universe. So, does that mean we're getting a Captain Price? Who The guy who plays Captain Price in the new Call of Duties is actually in House of the Dragon right now. He's playing Rainier as Queensguard. Anyway, like realistically, did anyone think that the Call of Duty movie wouldn't be Modern Warfare? Like, come on. However, we don't know more, and it is expected to release on June 30th in 2028. I don't know if a Black Ops movie would have worked. I don't know. So, a new fighting game in the world of DC Comics was announced, but it's not Injustice 3. It is a new mobile fighting game called DCKO. It's free to play. It will be a tag team fighting game made by Dropfake Inc. They're an independent studio out of British Columbia. It's a 2v2 tag fighter. Will be collectible and RPG elements as well. So monetization out the wazoo. It is expected to release sometime early next year. And I don't understand why, of all things, this. Maybe Warner Brothers deserves to be bought. What are you guys doing over there? Come on, James Gunn. Yoko Taro, the creator of Nier Automata. Is it Nier or Nier? Regardless, he is also concerned about the death of physical media. He wrote on Twitter on the 19th to bemoan it, saying, quote, "Personally, I can't help but feel sad about physical media disappearing, but I suppose it's just the flow of the times. Since controlling physical distribution channels is an inherent advantage, especially compared to platforms like Steam, I'd actually envisioned a future where, even as digital downloads became the norm, high-priced limited editions would remain physical, much like the model for CD distribution. It's a shame my prediction was wrong," unquote. I agree with him for the most part. I still prefer physical media. I mean, look at the Halo Campaign Evolved Collector's Edition. That came with a physical disc. People were playing it today, apparently. It's just unfortunate that we're here doing this. He even said, because he got a physical copy of Hi-Fi Rush, which I didn't even know existed. And he said, quote, "With the recent buzz about the PS5 discontinuing physical media production, we've received Hi-Fi Rush from our last hope, Super Deluxe Son. Don't assume your parents and physical media will always be there, so if you're interested, be sure to check it out," unquote. Yeah, physical media is king, people. You own it, technically, more so than the digital. Speaking of ownership rights and other things, Nintendo is arguing that customers in the U.S. do not have the right to tariff refunds. And I think I agree. I don't think Nintendo's doing a good thing here, and they're still being a villain. But technically, they are correct in this. So, of course, Nintendo Switch prices did go up just before launch. The U.S. had enacted sweeping tariffs across the planet. Not getting into that, because that's a whole mess of things in and of itself, which ultimately were turned over by the Supreme Court here in the States, and companies were allowed to sue for refunds on tariffs. And while some companies may have pushed that back to their customers, a lot of companies did not and kept the money for themselves. And guess what? Didn't pass along savings to customers either. Oh, shocker. Anyway, while the tariffs are illegal and tariff refunds were issued to companies, Nintendo has pushed off customer requests to be compensated. And via GameFile, Nintendo has asked for a proposed legal action against them to be dismissed, saying, quote, "Customers received exactly what they bargained and paid for," unquote. Yeah. Everyone paid for it knowing full well what the price was and why it was so high. You don't get to say later, hey, maybe you should give me some back. No, you shouldn't have bought it to begin with. How about that? Nintendo followed up with the quote, the common thread among plaintiffs' claims is that it is somehow unfair that Nintendo has not retroactively adjusted its prices for completed sales in response to the outcome of the tariff litigation. But that is not how commercial transactions work. Nintendo or one of its retailers set a price for each product, and consumers decided whether that price was worth paying. Those who bought Nintendo's products received exactly what they bargained and paid for, a console, game, and or accessory at the price at which both parties agreed. The money plaintiffs paid represents the purchase price of the goods they wanted and received. Plaintiffs are not entitled to a rebate simply because of the intervening legal developments related to tariffs. Unquote. Again, wholeheartedly I agree with this. However, Nintendo is being a bit of a villain here. They're fully in their right to do so, but customers also don't really have a leg to stand on here. You can't sue after the fact and say, hey, you got a tariff refund, you should give it to us. Again, not how it works. You should have voted with your wallet, but no one ever actually does. It's all just, hot air coming out. I know there's a lot of discussions about this online and everything. Again, they're not wrong. And for once, I'm not trying to defend them. I'm just saying, the fact that you thought of all companies Nintendo would give you your money back is asinine. Nintendo is still being a villain in this case. They're not wrong. For once, Nintendo isn't really wrong. Everybody knew what they were doing. Everybody knew what was going on. And they still bought the console at that price, at those rates. Nintendo did try to say, like, oh, we didn't charge as much. Like, no. Stop. Don't dig a hole that you don't need to dig. So now we continue back to PlayStation and the saga around the death of physical discs for PlayStation games starting in 2028. So apparently we have sales numbers for physical discs for PlayStation games. According to Circana, the analytics group, Matt Piscatella, the senior director and video game industry advisor at Circana, only 7 PlayStation games have sold more than 100,000 physical units this year in the United States. And only 2 PlayStation games sold more than 10,000 physical units in the U.S. during the week ending July 11th. So, that is interesting to me. That seems too low. I don't get that. The other problem, and before I continue, the other problem is stores don't even stock the physical games. This is not even a thing of them killing physical media. They don't even stock it anymore. And I had this conversation with everybody last year when I went to go try to buy Mafia last year. You guys remember that? Like it was nearly impossible to walk into a store and buy a game. Like that shouldn't be a hard thing to do at all. But apparently it was just too hard to walk into a store and buy a copy of Mafia. That's part of it. And I can see why, maybe that's why you're not selling that many physical copies. But that seems very low. Are that many people really buying digital? Do they do that many? But here's my counter to that as well. Do people know that when they buy on digital, they don't actually own it? That's the other counter, right? This, again, is U.S. only. We don't know what the numbers are in Europe or other places where console sales or console video games are still a big part of the market. We don't know Japan, things like that. So it's very interesting to see that this is that low in the U.S. I'd love to see what it is for Xbox and PlayStation. Xbox kind of killed physical a few years ago, but Yeah, I guess more than half of all Xbox Series X consoles in the US don't have a physical drive, with over a quarter of PS5s the same. So I really wonder what's going to happen. It's just unfortunate. But that seems really low. Who buys physical still and who goes digital? Please, I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts and reactions and everything like that. 700,000 sales just seems too low for the amount of PlayStations that are out there. I don't know. Here's a funny story. Katsuhiro Harada, the former director behind Tekken and things like that, recently went on a trip to the U.S., has recently opened up to not knowing what it meant to be invited to the cookout after Leroy Smith was announced as a character for Tekken 7. Because if you're unaware, being invited to the cookout is a phrase used by those within the African American community to essentially invite people that are not black to the gatherings, the family gatherings. And because Leroy Smith was so well received, Harada-san was essentially invited to the cookout. And he recently opened up about it, saying, quote, "Now, as someone from my generation in Japan, I was actually considered relatively good at reading and writing English. By then, I'd already been to North America over 50 times, had maintained the English I learned for university entrance exams, and had been communicating with people on Twitter in English long before translation apps became useful, let alone AI translation. But honestly, when I saw that sentence, I had absolutely no idea what it meant. In fact, my very first reaction was, oh no, I'm finished," unquote. Even if you know English, you don't know English. And it's all over cookout. He thought it was cooked, because when people say you're cooked. He said, quote, "For one terrifying moment, I read it as, hey, we can invite you to a party where we're going to beat you up and roast you. Even though I thought I knew America pretty well, I genuinely wondered if I'd somehow pressed some invisible cultural button that I wasn't supposed to touch," unquote. Luckily, someone explained it to him, where he said, quote, "You're someone we'd trust enough to invite to our close-knit family barbecue where only real friends and loved ones are welcome." That explanation was a huge relief. Then they started showing me barbecue equipment and ingredients, and I was absolutely shocked that everything was several times bigger than what we have in Japan. Sure, I expected the smoker grills to be huge, but even the tongs and spatulas were enormous, and the meat looked like it's something I'd only ever seen as loot in an MMORPG. Looking back now, I honestly regret not immediately flying to the U.S. and accepting an invitation to one of those community cookouts. That really was the perfect opportunity," unquote. Harada-san, you are invited to the cookout all the time. Hold on. I don't think I'm allowed to say that. But I think I speak for gamers in that statement. And also someone who does have a smoker. And while I don't smoke meats as much as I would like to, you'd be invited to my barbecue, Harada-san. I love the Tekken franchise and everything you've done with it. Xbox announced new backwards compatibility today, but it's for PC of all things. Hey, look, they haven't given up on it. See? Asha is doing the work everyone wanted. No, they've announced backwards compatibility on PC, allowing you to play games on PC and handhelds. So this is the first time backwards compatibility is on the ROG Ally as well. Just a few games are part of this new preview. Blinks the Time Sweeper, Conquer Live and Reloaded, Crimson Skies High Road, and Road to Revenge, and Fusion Frenzy. Ooh, Crimson Skies on PC would probably play very well. They're also going to add achievements. They're going to be added to Game Pass. If you already own them, they'll be added to your library right away. But yeah, this is interesting that it took this long for that to happen. And then final bit of gaming news. It's a fun one. LEGO announced today a new Donkey Kong arcade set. And it's a working mock-up of the original Donkey Kong arcade game with Jumpman and the barrels and everything. And yes, it's working. It comes with barrels. It's not cheap, though. It's $300. It has about just under 1,400 pieces. So, it's above the 10 cent per piece price. But it does have a lot of different Lego elements that are not normal, so that could be why. It will release August 1st, and it's for the top of a desk or display. So, that's fun. That's it for gaming. Let's head on up the 5 freeway, see what's going on in Hollywood, shall we? So here's something big. Marvel Comics will be moving from New York City after 90 years in the city, in the Big Apple. As Disney consolidates and move things around. DC Comics did this a few years back, maybe a decade ago, I think, at this point. But moving everything to Hollywood, like I said, they're kind of trying to bring the publishing division and consolidate Marvel under one roof. Kevin Feige is, announced this. He's head of Marvel Studios. But Marvel's head of television, animation, comics, and franchise, Brand Winderbaum, and Marvel's general manager, general comics and franchise, David Abdo, also part of the announcement. They will also hire a new editor-in-chief moving forward. Editor-in-chief C.B. Cebulski will be replaced by Steve Wacker. He's behind the Superior Spider-Man, Hawkeye, Miss Marvel, things like that. Helped work on the animated series Rocket and Groot from 2017. Wacker had left Marvel to work on independent projects, but is now back 4 years later. Cebulski isn't leaving, but is going to be taking over as editor Asia Originals in Japan as he moves over there. But so DC moved 13 years ago and moved to Burbank to be near Warner Brothers headquarters. Looks like Marvel's doing the same with their move. No surprise, no shock. It has nothing to do with politics or anything. It's just, it's easier when all your team can be in one place. Wait. No comment. Do you guys remember the not as well received second X-Files movie? Well, a new version of it, of X-Files I Want to Believe from 2008, will be hitting Hulu in August, and it will be a new rated R director's cut that I don't think anyone has seen since the movie came out. Drops August 14th. It will be called The X-Files I Want to Believe Vrock Frankenstein. What? This is actually what was meant to be. Chris Carter, creator of X-Files, was asked to tone down horror elements in I Want to Believe to give it a PG-13 movie. This is what it was supposed to be. It will, quote, faithfully restore the filmmaker's original vision, unquote. And that features the Russian version of Victor Frankenstein, which is Vrock Frankenstein. Interesting. Carter teased this last year, but he said, quote, I made it too scary, basically, and I was told so by the brass at Fox, and they wanted a PG-13 movie. So we cut it back to be a PG-13 movie, and we thought, okay, we satisfied their demands. The critics, the people who rate the movie, said, no, it's not a PG-13 yet. You've got to cut it back even further. I can tell you that you can do more on network television. The censors are more permissive than they are for the movies. Now I have a chance to go back and make the scary movie that I always intended, and it's not just doing a director's cut to do a director's cut. It's really kind of bringing to life something that, for me, was on the page and never got to the screen, unquote. And an X-Files Lego set was just announced with Scully herself doing the commercial. They should have brought David Duchovny back, too. Anyway, Disney and live-action movies. Apparently, the failure of Moana isn't stopping them, as Coleman Domingo and Robert O'Hara have been hired to write a live-action spin-off of The Princess and the Frog. Maybe that's what they need to do with the live-action. This is what Deadline is reporting. Coleman Domingo is in talks to co-write the live-action movie. It will focus on Tiana, but it will also be co-written by playwright and director Robert O'Hara. But we don't know what this is going to be about or what it has to do with. But it'll be interesting how it's a spin-off featuring Tiana. Will it be a prequel? Will it be a sequel? What will it be as we wait for Bambi, the long-gestating Hercules, and a Gaston spin-off? Still wondering what's going on with Hercules. Better be a musical. Better be a musical. Just you can't do everything scene for scene. That's not what's not working. A24 has addressed the concerns over fans over copyright strikes for Backrooms, and even the director Kane Parsons said he'd looked into it. A24 said on Instagram, saying, quote, "As Kane Parsons has made clear, Backrooms is one part of an infinitely bigger ecosystem rife with creatives who have every right to tell their own version of the story. Yesterday, we were made aware of an automated claim submitted to Redbubble on behalf of A24 and Backrooms movie. We immediately began the process to reverse it and reinstate the listings. A24 makes no claim of ownership over the yellow wallpaper, the original post referencing it, or any of the community works that have since been built around it. We will continue to support the artists who, like Kane, were inspired by it," unquote. Yeah, that makes sense. The Backrooms thing has been around for a very long time. You cannot claim that, A24. Hell, that's what actual backrooms of like department stores look like. You literally cannot claim that. Hot off the success of the Odyssey, Matt Damon has opened up saying he wants to do another Jason Bourne movie, which I'm not opposed to that. I did not like the last one. It almost made me sick. The Steadicam usage on that, or hand cam, or whatever the fuck they did, was awful. Yeah, Matt Damon has offered an update on the next Jason Bourne movie with director Edward Berger, saying, quote, "There's a great director named Ed Berger. He did All Quiet on the Western Front. He's a wonderful director, and we're talking about it. We're just trying to figure it out. We're trying to nail the story down because I'd love to do it. It's just that thing where if we do it, we want it to be like the first three," unquote. Yeah, that makes sense. That fourth one, like I said, was bad. And we don't talk about Bourne Legacy, which put me to sleep. It's one of the few movies that has put me to sleep in a movie theater. That was the one with Jeremy Renner. So I should rewatch that. Tony Gilroy and Jeremy Renner, that's a solid pairing. We'll see, though, if it actually gets made and is like the first three. Speaking of the Odyssey, it did not get lost at sea. It dominated the box office like the Greeks dominated Troy after they came out of that horse. It has brought in $264 million worldwide opening weekend, has done numbers on Monday and Tuesday, and yeah, it brought in $124 million domestically, $139 million internationally. It is Nolan's biggest box office opening weekend ever, beating out The Dark Knight Rises, by tens of millions of dollars, which is insane. They were projecting between 90 and 100 million domestically, 257 million globally, and they shot right past it. It is one of the highest openings of the year and in a while. It cost $250 million to produce, $125 million to promote. It's already going to make its money back and then some. It's one of the most expensive theatrical productions of this year so far. I think Endgame and Dune and stuff will be higher. But crazy. This beat even Oppenheimer, things like that. It will most likely get to the $1 million milestone. Yeah. I think this is crazy. Moana did do second place at the theater still. It's only made $178 million. Minions and Monsters and Toy Story 5 tied for third. Minions and Monsters has made about $323 million. Toy Story 5 is at $958 million. And Supergirl came in last place and is only at $120 million. Look at Toy Story making $1 billion. That's expected, though. Obviously, this is led by IMAX showings, which, if you're going to see IMAX, especially 70 millimeter, those tickets are going to be $30 and up. And showings, 2 a.m. showings are sold out. I'm recording a little late today because the heat and just general procrastination. It is 10:57 p.m. right now in California. I have a friend who literally is about to watch the Odyssey at 11 p.m. showing. An 11 p.m. 70 millimeter showing. That just shows you the draw it has. He said it's sold out, only 2 seats left, and they're the handicap seats, which this proves to me that, you know, Hollywood is not completely dead. Going to the movies is not dead yet. I think people need to learn from things. I talked about last week about IMAX. Apparently, engineers that built the 70 millimeter, some of them aren't even alive anymore. So you'd almost have to you'd have to reverse engineer it. I think if more movies were in 70 millimeter, and I know they say it's not feasible to build the theaters, I think if more movies were in 70 millimeter, I think people would go back to the movies for everything again. I'm not saying everything needs to be IMAX. Granted, bigger screen is better. I'm not going to lie. I pick and choose movies I see in IMAX. I really think if we went back, and if we did big again, and made seats in IMAX theaters comfortable, I think people would be back in the movies all the time. I'm not saying we're going to be spending $30 on tickets. I think if we made more of them, I don't think tickets would need to be $30. But this is proof that people want to see movies again. They do. They really do. And I think that the Doomsday trailer and its reaction is part of that as well. I think Doomsday, that trailer features Doctor Doom. It features all the characters coming together. It features Cap. It features the Fantastic Four coming to Earth 616. It features the Earth 616 interacting with the X-Men universe. Shang-Chi fighting Gambit. I mean, we see Mystique shape-shifting into Yelena. This movie, the only issue is the rumors are true. Robert Downey Jr. is going to be putting on an accent as Victor Von Doom. The problem with it is all I could hear was Nandor from What We Do in the Shadows, and I half expected a Guillermo to come out. That's the only issue I had with it. It had 503 million views in one day, the second biggest trailer launch, only behind Spider-Man Brand New Day. And Variety is reporting that. It is insane. I think this movie's gonna do gangbusters. I hope it does. The Paramount and WB Warner Brothers merger is on hold due to judge's orders by at least 2 weeks. Judge Araceli Martinez Olguin has called for the merger to stop after a state coalition argued in court that it would violate federal antitrust law, due to the cause of higher prices and fewer movies and TV shows. Paramount was hoping to close the deal today, but this restraining order will keep the deal from being finalized for at least another 2 weeks, but could be extended up to 28 days. 12 states are seeking to block the merger. So we'll see what happens if this ever if it goes through. But I wonder what will happen. California is one of the 12 states, of course, and several others. I don't think anyone wants this merger to happen. I don't want any mergers to happen anymore, really, as they continue to backfire. Ryan Reynolds has teased a fourth Deadpool movie, hoping it gets made one day. Saying that there's still some what he's calling quote unquote deep cuts, saying quote, there's a few really deep cuts that are missing from the movies. I think there's certainly some stuff that I love that Fabian wrote that is incredible. Jerry Duggan is a friend and an incredible comic book writer. There's stuff coming. There eventually will be another Deadpool film, unquote. So we'll see what happens. Fabian Nicieza, who he's referring to, is the person who wrote Deadpool's original solo run and helped create the character. So we'll see. And then Jerry Duggan wrote Deadpool, Dracula's Gauntlet, Deadpool vs. S.H.I.E.L.D., Deadpool Does Shakespeare, Wedding of Deadpool, many other things. He also helped write Sunset Overdrive. And so that's interesting. No word yet on a fourth movie. We don't know if Deadpool will show up in Doomsday or not, but Ryan Reynolds wants to make more. And I think audiences will take it. Disney announced massive layoffs yesterday, excuse me. Laying off hundreds of people across the whole company, and ESPN was hit pretty hard. Like, Ryan Clark, really? And you're going to give more money to Pat McAfee? Don't get me wrong, the Pat McAfee show's cool, but $60 million a year? Come on. The Wrap is reporting that employees hit by redundancies were across studios and television divisions. A spokesperson told The Wrap, saying, quote, these changes are part of our continual evaluation of how we manage resources and reinvest across the company as our industry continues to evolve, unquote. We don't know how many, but it's the largest round of layoffs in general, and Pixar was hit pretty hard. Biggest hit to them since 2024. They laid off 14% of people in 2024 and more now. And allegedly Pixar got hit harder because of Hopper's not doing well and some other recent successes. Meanwhile, Toy Story just made $1 billion. Are you fucking kidding me? What are you doing, Disney? Because Hopper's struggled to break even. Elio didn't do well last year, which was Pixar's lowest theatrical opening weekend ever. But it's mainly because of Hopper's and things like that. But we'll see how their future goes forward. Disney wants Pixar to make their movies at a more affordable price, which, is that even possible? They're making Incredibles 3 and a Coco 2, and maybe even a third Monsters movie. But what I don't understand is Toy Story 5 and Inside Out 2 both made a ton of fucking money. But because Hopper's, Elio, and Elemental barely made any money, it's hurting the studio. Whatever, man. One of my favorite franchises is finally getting new life again. A second reboot is in the works with RoboCop coming to Prime Video. An 8-episode series has been announced. James Wan is executive producing. Yes, the James Wan of The Conjuring. It's been in development for at least 4 years. Peter Ocko was brought on to the series in 2024 as a writer, showrunner, and co-executive producer alongside James Wan. Peter Ocko worked on Moonhaven and Lodge 49. But Ocko has also spent 3 decades in the industry, worked on Pushing Daisies, The Office, Elementary, Black Sails, and more. Blumhouse Atomic Monster will produce, and Paul Verhoeven sorry, not Paul Verhoeven, Ed Neumeyer, who was the co-creator and co-writer, and his partner on that, Michael Miner, have joined the list of executive producers as well. So they're giving their official blessing to the show, essentially, is what that means. We don't know if it's going to be in Detroit or anything like that, but it is very reticent into today's society and things going on. It makes sense, especially with as AI and things take over. Jumping back over to comic world, Clayface dropped a new trailer today where we finally got to see more of the titular character's clay physiology, and they are really pushing the horror stuff, which I'm not surprised at. That's kind of what we're getting with the fact that it's being written by Mike Flanagan, right? So I'm excited for this movie. It's going to be our first look at Gotham in the new DCU. It's set several years before Superman. This Clayface is expected to be the same Clayface that was in Creature Commandos. So I don't know. I'm stoked on it. I like to see what is happening. I hope they're still saving some of the big stuff either for before the movie comes out or the movie itself. But we get to see some of his transformation stuff, and I am fully on board with it. Fully on board. Jumping over to Marvel again, Kevin Feige has announced that Marvel has their movies planned through at least 2042. That's insane. He was telling Watching Hollywood, which is a Chinese outlet, in a tour in Shanghai, saying Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars was a conclusion of storylines that started before the MCU, going back to the X-Men movies and things like that. Comparing Secret Wars to Endgame, and he wants it to be a new beginning, saying, quote, "We want to do two things. First, to bring some storylines to a close, and those that started long before Iron Man, including the original X-Men characters. Second, to simultaneously set the stage for the future. Avengers Endgame was truly an end, and since then we've tried and experimented with many new things. But Secret Wars is a beginning. It will establish a streamlined, simplified, single universe that audiences can keep up with. Some things will be familiar, but many, many things will be entirely new." Unquote. He doesn't want to call it a full reboot. X-Men, of course, will be the big part of that. He also said, quote, "We were just in a Marvel Studios meeting room planning movies all the way up to 2042. Whether we can make it to 2042, who knows? Will it be those movies? Who knows? But this is how we approach and plan the vast amount of potential stories in the comics. We're constantly changing, constantly evolving, but having some guidance help us act more purposefully, especially with X-Men. It's already had 10 movies, some very, very good, some I think haven't lived up to the expectations. How do we plan the mutant saga in a very grand way?" Unquote. Who knows? We're hoping to see what Marvel announces at Hall H this weekend at Comic-Con. Some people think that an X-Men cast might get announced. I don't know, because that movie's still a few years away. But I'm sure we're going to get more Doomsday and Spider-Man stuff at Hall H before anything else. And then final bit of gaming news here. Movie news. We may have a director for Days of Thunder 2, as Jonathan Levine, who directed Warm Bodies and 50/50, is in talks to direct the movie at Paramount, which is expected to be Tom Cruise's next movie. The Hollywood Reporter is the one with the scoop. The movie is expected to follow Tom Cruise as Cole Trickle once again. Jerry Bruckheimer is producing alongside Tom Cruise, and it is intended, like I said, to be his next movie. Production is expected to start sometime next year. And then, of course, a Top Gun 3 is also in the works at Paramount. But that's what's going on right now. And I got nothing else. Ooh, fun stuff. I'm going to the Magic Castle in LA at the end of August. If you've never heard of the Magic Castle, it is an exclusive club, invite only. You get to see dinner and magic show, essentially. So I'm excited on that. Obviously, we'll talk about that in September because it's at the end of August. Comic-Con is, of course, this weekend. I will not be in attendance, but I will have all the news and coverage for you next week. Stick around. And hopefully, no, I'm not going to go to the... I may or may not go to the movies this week. I don't know what I want to watch. Spider-Man, of course, is still another week away. But that is it for Nick's Nerd News this week. Don't forget to check out the website. Follow me on socials. Give us a like, share, follow, subscribe, whatever you want to do. Whatever floats your fun little boat. And I will catch you guys on the flip side.